French President Emmanuel Macron telling President Biden that the Saudis and the United Arab Emirates claim that they can barely increase oil production. Biden is set to travel to Saudi Arabia next month looking for help to bring down fuel prices here in the United States, really around the globe, as he refuses to turn to American producers.
Emmanuel Macron tells President Biden yesterday on a hot mic that the UAE and Saudis are at or near capacity on oil production right now. And he's about to go over there to talk to them about oil production and capacity while our gas prices continue to go up.
With your advice, I took the call for increasing the production units. So I got him, he told me two things. One, I'm at the maximum, what he claimed. And second, he told me, according to us, the Saudis can increase a little bit, but 150 or a little bit more, and they don't have huge capacities at this stage, before 6 months time.
You had Jake Sullivan actually say, how about we take this inside?
He actually said that.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so he actually said, how about we take this inside? Which tells you that number one,
out of control.
Totally out of control.
Macron laid it out for our president there. I guess the question is, why are we so flat-footed here? Why do we not understand that this is not like a magic solution to our problems?
How do these guys not know this already? Hasn't this been something that's been under discussion over the last several months when we've been talking about getting Russian oil and gas off of the table? One would think, given the news flows that we've seen, that this was a subject of major concern.
I was pleased that this conversation was out in public because within the foreign policy world, we've seen very concerning signs. We've seen the trouble. But now that it's out in the open with Macron doing this publicly, I think the world is beginning to see that Joe Biden is not in charge.
Yesterday, one of the people from the Biden administration went on the record. They specifically asked a question. Victor Blackwell, not exactly you're talking about a conservative president from CNN.
Yeah. What do you say to those families who say, listen, we can't afford to pay $4.85 a gallon for months, if not years. This is just not sustainable.
Well, what you heard from the president today was a clear articulation of the stakes. This is about the future of the liberal world order, and we have to stand firm.
One of the things that I find pretty shocking in this also is in that he says we can't, people are saying they can't afford to pay for this for months or possibly years. They certainly don't balk at that and say, it's not going to be months or years.
Right. And Brian Deese, who is the chairman of the National Economic Council, his entire position at the National Economic Council is to help create and craft policy for the president of the United States. That's what that forum is for. So his entire job is to create policy. And his policy about high gas prices, a very big thing hitting our economy, is that we have to stand firm because it's about the future of the liberal world order.
I can understand why the American people are frustrated because of inflation. But inflation is higher in almost every other country.
Every single other country in the G7 has a lower inflation rate than our country, the USA. In fact, almost every single country in the developed world has a lower rate.
You can't tell the American people inflation's bad, but it's worse somewhere else. We don't live somewhere else.
The headline, obviously, is they're using terms like liberal world order. That's a bit concerning and it's a bit freaky. But the truth of the matter, when you really look at what the Biden administration is saying, is we could be in a months to years long battle with this inflation, and they're blaming it on the current crisis in Ukraine. And honestly, they kind of turn it on you. They turn it on anyone who complains and says, well, this is just for the betterment of humanity. Suck it up. Pay more money at the gas pump. Not really how they should be handling it. Not really reading the room for how America is feeling. President of the United States, who went on the record in a rare press conference, not even in our country, not even on our soil, to say essentially that they're willing to do whatever, including cheating, to make sure that abortion rights become specifically codified into law.
I believe we have to codify Roe v. Wade in the law, and the way to do that is to make sure the Congress votes to do that. And if the filibuster gets in the way, it's like voting rights. It should be, we provide an exception for this, require an exception to the filibuster for this action.
Shocking to hear the President of the United States stand on a foreign stage before an international cadre of reporters and essentially say the Supreme Court has lost his confidence.
Look, this is a real threat that we can't just ignore and pretend isn't real. This is a problem if they decide to, just for this one moment, to just throw out the precedent of the filibuster because they feel like, the other things, not important enough. But for this, for the taking of human life, we feel like we got to do it.
There is no one-time break of the filibuster. Senator McConnell has said any number of times the filibuster is an all-or-nothing proposition, and they're not going to selectively break it for one thing or another as the progressives go down their wish list.
This is something that Democrats in Washington, D.C. have been telegraphing for some time now. There is a bill called the Women's Health Protection Act that would codify Roe v. Wade into federal law, and, Logan, it would go a lot further than that, but it would also eviscerate all state protections for life, both that have already passed and in the future. Logan, they've passed that in the United States House, and they've tried to pass it twice in the United States Senate and failed.
The question, of course, now is whether he can convince Democrats, a couple of Democrats, Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, to go along with him on that.
Whether it be cheating by going against the rules that are established in the Senate, or whether it is going on towards November and trying to flip a few seats in the Senate just to get it over the finish line.
This is where the midterms are going to have major, major consequences, and we can't let up.
A sweltering summer day in Texas, with temperatures topping 100 degrees, contributing to one of the country's deadliest human smuggling cases in recent history.
The border crisis is now reaching the humanitarian crisis that we knew was going to happen. 50 dead in San Antonio in the back of an 18-wheeler because of human trafficking. So when we talk about these statistics, these aren't just statistics. These are 50 people that have died because coyotes were taking them across the United States, Mexico border to the United States in unair-conditioned 18-wheeler trucks.
A law enforcement official tells the Texas Tribune it appears people were trying to jump out of the tractor trailer because some of the deceased were found along several blocks.
One of the things that President Biden did, the first thing he came in, was reverse the sanitary policies of President Trump. The wall, the Remain in Mexico policy, all the policies that President Trump had put in that were working. And then to come out with a ridiculous statement through his press secretary that the border is closed. What are you talking about?
Right.
Who do you think we are, idiots out here?
The fact of the matter is the border is closed, which is in part why you see people trying to make this dangerous journey using smuggling networks.
Sick and tired of this administration telling me how humane their policies are and how secure the border is. It angers me, especially in this case. I've been there. It changed me forever. This is horrific.
And you told me before we went on the air that the reports this last week are that in the people crossing the border illegally were 4 individuals from Afghanistan.
Yeah, absolutely.
They obviously did not come into the United States legally.
No, they did not. And in the past year, since President Biden has been president, in this last year of his office, people from 109 different countries have been apprehended at the border. 109, and those are the ones they've apprehended. And again, we don't know about the getaways.
This administration, they broke a lot of records. A record number of migrants have already died under Joe Biden, over 700. Now add 46 more to it. A record number of Americans that have died from drug overdoses come across an open border.
The numbers are absolutely record highs. We've never seen numbers this high of people coming across the border since they started counting people coming across the border.
We have got to get border security in place, folks. We have got to get the immigration system fixed. We cannot have people coming over in unair-conditioned trucks. We need a Remain in Mexico policy until your case is adjudicated. This is unacceptable, period, and it's a violation of basic human dignity.
The Supreme Court has just issued another consequential opinion, this one in a case known as Kennedy versus the Bremerton School District.
The case involves a public high school football coach in Washington state and whether he can pray on the field after games.
On Monday, the court ruled for a former high school football coach lost his job after leading post-game prayers at midfield. In the court's latest decision, they have again said, and this is Justice Gorsuch 6-3, that the prayers of the coach are protected by the Constitution's guarantees of both free speech and the free exercise of religion clause.
Authored by Justice Gorsuch, it says this: a government entity sought to punish an individual for engaging in a brief, quiet, personal religious observance, doubly protected by the free exercise and free speech clauses of the First Amendment. The Constitution neither mandates nor tolerates that kind of discrimination.
What's interesting about this case is they not only said that the coach had the right to engage in that prayer, it was private speech, not government speech, but they also said that the fact that there were students around the area did not make it immune from First Amendment protection.
Free speech and free exercise are both protected under the First Amendment. And whether that's a teacher bowing their head over their meal, or whether that's coach going for 15 to 20 seconds after the game and saying a prayer, a silent prayer, you have a right to do that.
This is important to note, is that the free exercise clause, which has meant nothing to courts for decades, means something to this current court, and they've done that time and time again.
Yeah.
They've shown that, and that they don't just bow down and say, well, if there's the exercise clause and the establishment clause at issue, the establishment clause always wins. That is no longer the case anymore.
His case ended up being bigger because it protected so many other people. A really broad opinion that I think is going to provide a lot of protections for a lot of Americans under the First Amendment.
So the Supreme Court clearly in favor of the coach's free exercise of religion rights, but also First Amendment rights.